What's going on, people? It's your boy John here again, coming at you with one of his finest videos. Totally not a fucking pretentious way of starting the video, isn't it? Who the fuck gives a shit anyway, man? What's good though? What's good, man? I'm just in the forest right now. It's not even a forest, it's more of a nature reserve, but let's not get stuck on semantics. I really like this forest because it's much bigger than the one that I usually go to, and there's just more places to walk, and it's more of a hiking trail, so you get to actually use a lot of your muscles rather than just a few. So yeah, it's good. Yesterday I went out with the lads. We had a little drinking night, so I binged, not only in drinking but also eating and also other substances. Now this is funny for me because I don't actually enjoy getting drunk, and I don't enjoy getting high either anymore. Okay, because these substances take you out of a conscious state. You're not conscious when you're drunk or you're high. You're unconscious. And the reason that you feel free when drunk is because you're on a lower consciousness. So, funnily enough, the less you're aware, the more you do. Okay, you just do rather than wither and doubt. Okay, but you're not in control. You are completely controlled by impulse when drunk. When you're high, it's not really that you're controlled by impulse, but when you're high, especially with weed, for me, it just shifts my perception. If I get into a negative mindset when high, I will be taken over by that mindset and I will embody it to the fullest. If I get into a creative mindset, I will also get into that mindset and I'll embody that as well. If I get into a loving mindset, I'll love. If I get into a knowledgeable mindset, I'll be knowledgeable. So really, you just become the mindset or the state that you're in when you're high. So in the past, when I was a novice and I used to get high, I always used to get into a negative mindset. And when I would get into a negative mindset, I would then associate that with the weed. And I would say that it was the weed that was making me feel like shit. But actually, it wasn't the weed, it was me, who was just in a negative mindset, and the weed just simply made me see that. And I was very aware of the negative mindset that I was putting myself in. So yeah, I don't like getting, once in a while it's good, getting drunk or something, but I don't particularly enjoy it anymore because I'm not in control, or rather I lose awareness pretty quickly. And it's not like my presence in day-to-day life is extraordinary. It's not. I slip in and out of perception. It's very often that I fall into a negative thought pattern. And the thoughts then just take me on a nice little ride to wherever the fuck they want to go. And I can't get out of it. I can't seem to get out of the thought pattern. It's like a mental prison in your head. And then occasionally I just slip out. And then in that moment of clarity, I realized that everything that I was feeling previously was all just in my head. It's funny. It's funny, man. Because it is a game, it's a joke when you look at it from the outside perspective, how most of human suffering is created by ourselves. We create all of it. We create the pain, we create the sadness, we create grief, we create anxiety, fear, anger. I think a lot of us have a problem, right? A lot of us, we've got a big major problem in our life. I don't know what, it could be anything for anyone, okay? My biggest one is relationships. So for me, my problem is relationships. That's what I've bigged it up to be in my head, that this is my problem. My personal problem that I have to overcome in my life is relationships. And I guess I could talk about the past. I could say, this happened in the past, that happened in the past. These are the circumstances that I was in, so this is what I learned. I didn't learn this, I didn't learn that, so I have to relearn everything. And, just the more you talk about the past, the more you bring the past into the present, and that's how you recreate the past. Because you're just bringing the past into the present. So I choose not to do that anymore. I'm not going to talk about the past, and I'm going to make sure that the past is just the past. It's something that happened in a distant land, and it didn't really happen. It was more, well, that's what it was. It was a happening. It wasn't something significant. It was just a happening. Were there lessons to be learned? Yes, there were. But dwelling on the past, you're trying to recreate the unrecreatable. It's a deluded fantasy. It doesn't get you any far. You just recreate the pain, I think, when you keep bringing up the past. And it doesn't serve you. It's not beneficial in any way. It just recreates or keeps the pain of the past going. So yeah, my big problem, as my mind likes to make it, is relationships. Relationships with the opposite sex, relationships with other people. There's this thought in my head that's very reoccurring. It's, I can't do it. That thought is very persistent, and it's got a very strong paradigm behind it. So if I was to, what's this fly doing, man? This is why I love nature, but I hate it at the same time, because these flies are always trying to buzz with me, man. It's like they love me, innit? Oh, God. So yeah, the big problem is, relationships with the opposite sex. And a persistent thought with a shit ton of paradigms behind it is, I just can't do it. That's a mindset. It's a negative mindset, but it's a paradigm. It's a very strongly ingrained paradigm that's really strongly rooted in me. So it's a belief now. And it's like, the belief literally is, I can't do it. That's it. It's just, there's a big mental block that says I can't do this. And when I get into that mindset or that thinking, my body physically feels that way. It physically constricts itself. It becomes really tight, closed off. There's fear and pain involved. There's grief, when I think about that subject. Very, very intense sort of pain. That's the cause of probably 99% of the anxiety that I suffer. Not relationships. Not relationships. The thoughts behind it. The paradigm behind relationships. My own paradigm is the cause of 99% of my anxiety or my issues. Because previously, when I didn't have a lot of experience with women, and that's not to say that I'm, fucking, what do you call him? Some, what's that guy's name? The great seducer. I forgot the guy's name. Casanova, that's it. I'm not saying I'm some sort of Casanova, far from it. But before I had any meaningful experiences with women, I always thought that if I wasn't in a relationship, or I wasn't dealing with women, or any of that sort, I used to think it was my problem or my fault. I used to think to myself that this is because of something wrong with me. There's a fault, a fundamental flaw. I remember I used to use really artistic words and logical reasoning to try and explain my big problem, because that's what it was. I was making a big problem. I used to call it a fundamental flaw, the greatest flaw I will ever encounter. And this flaw is so big, massive problem, big problem. I have to jump through hurdles. I have to conquer the world. I'll never be able to overcome this problem. It's so big. So big. It's impossible. Can't do it. That's the paradigm. Okay. And of course, there's a lot of pain associated with that. There's a lot of suffering involved as well. It's really funny to see how the ego does that. How the ego will create a problem and it will make it just an object of its fascination. Because that's what the ego does. The ego is a concept. And the ego is looking for fulfillment through concepts, through other concepts, through other forms. So, whilst you're in that state of being a concept, you're trying to fill yourself up with other forms. It will never happen. You can't have everything. And if you even had everything, you would still never be filled up. So the ego is, when you're in the ego will create a problem, a flaw, an issue, a big smack bang red button nuclear problem. And the ego will then say that this is the reason why I'm unhappy. Yeah, this is the reason why I'm upset. This is the reason I'm depressed, or I have anxiety. This is the reason why I'm upset, because of this problem. Your problem may be different. It might not be relationships. It might be money. It might be your own self-esteem. It might be the way other people think about you. It might be other people entirely. Your problem might actually just be other people. Some people's problems are other people. They literally say, I hate people. People are shit. I hate them. They're untrustworthy. They're crap. I hate them. They're the problem. Not me. They're the problem. Some people say then it's religion. Religion's the problem. This is the reason why there's a suffering in the world. It's religion. The reason I suffer is because of religion. Because religion forces it on me. Blah, blah, blah. My mum, her problem is her son. He's my problem. The biggest problem of my life. When there's nothing wrong, the ego will always create a problem, because the ego can only survive in lack. Yeah, that's what I realized. The ego creates a lack, creates a problem, and therefore, to solve that problem, you need more ego. You need more forms, more concepts, more thoughts in your head, a reliance on your emotions and your thoughts now to get through, because you're tackling a problem. This is a fucked up thing in our evolution. It's not fucked up, it's the way it is, but you know what I mean. But it is kind of fucked up, because our minds are designed to solve problems. Okay, we've got this mind, this thought faculty, thinking faculty. We've got this. It's a very strong, powerful instrument. And when we were survivalists, when we were in the wild and we had to survive, we needed this thinking faculty to get by. This thinking faculty was important to us. And we relied on it to get through the day. But then we started to live together. As human beings, we grew into societies, and we were left with a redundant piece of equipment in our heads now, which at the same token was responsible for a lot of good in society, so a lot of achievements, a lot of growth, but at the same time a lot of suffering, because the majority of human progress comes out of a problem. Okay, so there's a problem. Let's say it's poverty, or it's enemies, or whatever, right? There's a problem, there's an issue. And the ego will do everything in its power to overcome that problem. But then when there's no problems anymore, when you're just content like we are today, we should be content. We're not though, but we should be. When we live in this kind of society now, the ego doesn't know what to do. Because there's nothing to be worried about. There's nothing to survive against. So now the battle isn't physical. It's psychological. The ego doesn't want physical gratification anymore. I don't think anyone's problem is food. I don't think anyone has a problem with food. I mean, there may be issues with your relationship with food. You may overeat and use food as a gratification, pleasure, but I don't think anyone's sitting down and saying that the reason I'm not happy is because I don't have enough food. I don't think anyone said that. Will food be used for gratification though? Absolutely. But the ego, the point is that it's not going to say that physical things are the problem. So it's not going to say, I don't have a shelter, therefore I'm unhappy. Or I don't have water, and that's why I'm unhappy, or I don't have a bath, shit like that. Physical shit. Things that you need to survive. You ain't going to talk about that. It's always going to be psychological stuff. It's always going to be stuff like relationships, money, wealth, clothes, cars, TVs. Still physical pleasures. Food as well, I guess you could say as well. It's going to fine dining, right? Hotels, traveling. If only I travel enough, then I'll be happy. I've been guilty of that one before. If only I travel enough. If only I meet enough people, I'll be happy. Meeting people's cool. I love meeting people, and I love traveling. It's an experience. That's what it is. And I enjoy the experience, but experience isn't life. It really isn't. The reason experience feels like life is because it's new. It's different from your everyday circumstances. It's it's fun. The normal life is this. Just sitting down underneath a tree. Just relaxing. So today I was thinking about my great problem that my mind loves to exaggerate. Because that's what it is. It doesn't just exaggerate it to other people, but it exaggerates it to me. Exaggerates it so much, makes it into a big problem. Oh, look how shit your life is. Look how shit you are. And sometimes it'll turn destructive. It'll actually turn inside, and it will attack me and my own self, because it's got nothing else to attack. And now I can feel and even understand that I'm turning this into a problem as well now. I'm turning the fact that my mind is like this into a problem, and that's now becoming a new problem. My mind won't shut up. My mind just keeps going. My thoughts keep bothering me. Oh, if only I could get rid of my thoughts. You see how one problem is always replaced by another, and it just keeps going on. The cycle just is endless. So here's the trick. You just do away with everything that's not you. Do away with everything. Just say, I don't need it. And then when you have a thought that says you need it, you say, I don't need that thought. And when you have a thought that says I need the thought, you say, I don't need that thought. Then when you get another thought that says I don't need that thought, you then say, I don't need that thought. And you just keep going. See where that leads you. See where that rabbit hole goes. But don't do anything that doesn't say I don't need it. Always say or think whatever that says I don't need this form-based reality. It's not me. Alright, gentlemen, take it easy, yeah? That's going to be it for today.